And we're going to sample some tea.
In champagne glass?
In champagne glass.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
Nice. I love tea. That's for sure.
Last August, we went back to Ottawa after your stay.
And then she didn't put it in here. Top for posterity.
And you've done some of the exterior walls and whatever.
Okay. Right. I just wanted to greet everybody before we go live on the camera. The camera is just zoomed in right here. Anybody uncomfortable with being on the camera, please just don't literally like walk like this, and you're gonna be okay. If you just, for example, if you walk back here, you know, like this, it might catch the side of you, and then it's just gonna be going for the entirety of the performance, but we're gonna mute it during the intermission period. And we're gonna make the screen kind of go off into the sky, so you don't have to be as concerned when the music stops, or whenever there's pauses, etc. You'll see the camera actually on a different angle. And I'm Jared, by the way. I'm one of the owners of JagaSilk. I'm really, really happy that everybody was able to make it here. I'm going to do a proper introduction in just 2 seconds. Okay. So, okay. All right. Awesome. Sorry, I'm going to quickly pour for everybody, and I'll be right back to. So I'm going to explain about what we're drinking in just a moment. This is one of a 4-part flight of cold brew tea. In a moment. We have a silver. It's an aged. Okay. Okay. There's the food really nicely.
I didn't know that either.
Silver needs it. Isn't it?
That's right.
I think I don't quite have enough for the last one, so I'll be right back. And there you are. I'm just going to explain about the tea over the microphone. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Jared.
No problem. Thank you. Okay. So, I'm going to be very careful. Okay. So again, for the camera, I'm Jared Nyberg, and I'm one of the owners of JagaSilk, and we are here in our first of a 2-part series this year. Last year, and the year before, and the year before that, we've been doing this musical tea series. More recently, though, we've been teaming up with a nonprofit that is literally my other hat, which is the International Tea Appreciation Society, and we've been doing these pre-concert tea talks. So, and with me today is Gwen and Bill Jamieson, and I kind of laugh because I keep on wanting to call Gwen Emma for some reason. I'm so sorry. You know, I was literally typing the YouTube channel, like the description, and I wrote Emma again.
Oh, is that right?
Even after Bill corrected me. Isn't that terrible? I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm really stoked to have you guys here because you do a particular historical moment and that is. Well, I shouldn't call it that. I guess it's like a living history, right? So we're talking about traditional folk, Renaissance. We're talking about early music. Could you tell everybody a little bit about what you are hoping to bring today, and about maybe your own musical projects?
You want to start?
Sure. Well, we're both members of a folk band that is also an early music group, and so we kind of and with this gig we've brought a lot of that repertoire or things that kind of would fit in with that idea of where folk music meets early music, where folk music of the past is the early music of the present. A lot of the stuff that we're doing today is what would have been considered to be pop music or folk music in the Renaissance period or in the medieval period. You know, in a sense, I mean, those words didn't exist back then, but which is now become early music. And so we approach it with a sensitivity towards history, but also towards it with a sort of a sense of kind of a playfulness and a willingness to just have a fun time and jam with the music that we really love.
Yeah, the repertoire that we're doing today is good. It spans a few centuries because we're going back as far as the 11th century probably, with a piece by Hildegard von Bingen, who most people are familiar with nowadays. She's had this huge revival lately and is very popular. So that's kind of the earliest piece. But we go right up to really to sort of probably what you'd say the 19th century with some of the unaccompanied folk songs, traditional folk songs of the British Isles that we've also included in the program.
Very cool. Yeah, you are both in a folk group. I don't know if you said the name of Banquo, is it?
Banquo Folk Ensemble.
Banquo?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were actually listening to some of the music in the tea bar over since we booked you guys for today's show, and we've been thoroughly enjoying your work. And yeah, it's really. And then Bill is also the artistic
Executive and artistic director.
Executive and artistic director of the Early Music Society of the Island.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is an amazing society that brings in some incredible musicians that are performing music from a similar period that you guys are going to be covering today, correct? And
yeah, that's right. Early Music Society of the Islands, or EMSI as we usually call it.
Yeah.
It's been around for, I guess we're into our 39th season now, coming up. 39th season, so it's been around for almost 40 years. Our mission, if you like, has kind of evolved over time, but largely it is to present what's known as historically informed musical performance. That is, music that is performed as close to the way that it was originally performed as we were able to get. Of course, we can't possibly know how this music was actually performed because there are no recordings, but through scholarship and so on, a lot of musicians develop what's known as historically informed performance practice. So EMSI focuses on that. Generally speaking, the medieval Renaissance up to the end of the Baroque period. Occasionally we nudge forward into a little bit of Haydn and Mozart, but mostly it's what we traditionally call early music. And our mission is there are wonderful internationally renowned and amazing musicians in the world performing this music, and our mission is to bring them to Victoria audiences, because we feel that Victoria audiences deserve a chance to hear these fantastic ensembles.
Agreed. And you've brought in some incredible musicians. So we've had my wife and I have had the opportunity to go to a number of these concerts and just come away super inspired and trying to get everybody we know to go and check it out, because it's such it's good for the soul. It's really just fun and whimsical, but beautiful and technical, and it's so many things.
In a lot of the groups, they're relatively small ensembles. They're all acoustic, of course, because there was no, if you're doing an historically informed performance, they don't have amplifiers and microphones. But it's also a lot of people comment, I know we've heard a lot of people say that it's quite an intimate experience because you're relatively close to the group, there's relatively small, our audiences are perhaps more modest than we would like them to be, but they're not huge, massive audiences in a great big concert hall, where you're jammed in. So it's also a bit of an intimate musical experience as well. So
that's wonderful. And then Gwen, you were also a vocalist working with the University of Victoria sometimes. Can you, or what are some? I was reading a little bit into your bio. I thought that piece and just participating in various vocal projects, I guess, was fascinating to me as well.
Well, yeah, I have a degree in classical voice performance from UVic, I have sung professionally with a number of groups doing music from all different periods. I've done new music professionally. I've done, Mozart Requiem, Vivaldi Gloria, that kind of stuff. And Messiahs, naturally I've done Messiahs. And yeah, so I am a classical singer, and that's where I approach singing from a classical perspective.
From a technique point of view.
Yeah, but I'm also really into folk music. I was kind of raised with folk music. In our household, my dad has this old harp that he made from a kit in the 80s.
Oh wow!
And one of the things he used to do when I was a little kid to pass the time was just pull up this harp and just play a bunch of Scottish folk songs in an evening. So I do have two kind of worlds that I like to do. And this is going to be right down the middle of it.
It's kind
because
of
a lot of these medieval pieces or Renaissance pieces are actually quite technical. You really need to kind of approach it with a classical technique in order to get the notes and be able to sing it beautifully. And so there's that, but I'm also going to be doing actual just traditional folk music as well.
super fascinating. There's something that's always interested me is the progression of sheet music over time, and how musicians when they're reading sheet music and just the notations for how those songs should be performed has changed and evolved over time. So when you go back far enough, there's less and less information for you to really, but that kind of opens up a really interesting opportunity to play as well, right? Like you have less specific.
It's less prescriptive.
Right?
Prescriptive, yes.
Yeah.
It's one of the joys of doing early music is that, of course, as you say, the further back you go, the less material there is. I mean, you go back far enough, and the original Carmina Burana manuscripts that Karl Orff kind of created this wonderful piece called Carmina Burana in the 20th century, but he based the text on music that was music and poems that were written in maybe the 10th and the 9th and the 11th century, so very old. And it's interesting because the manuscript is just the beginnings of music notation. There's these little squiggles over top of the words, and no staff lines, no anything. Nothing says what the notes are, just little squiggles.
Notes to self.
Yeah, and presumably at the time they knew what those squiggles meant, but we have no idea what they mean now. So the further back you go, the more opportunity for us to look at that sort of thing and say, okay, well maybe they did this, maybe they did that, and experiment and improvise, because improvisation was huge back then.
And we're going to be doing a lot of that today.
We'll be doing some improvising today as in the course of the music. So,
well, before I got really interested in this way of like watching people perform this world, I had always been introduced to medieval music as quite staccato. And when I started watching musicians that were being way more rhythmic and interpretive of the material, that just got me, sucked me right in. So, and then listening to some of your CDs, I'm sensing this more rhythmic and more, in my opinion, interesting approach to the work. So I'm really excited.
Well, when you look back on those old manuscripts, of course, again, as you say, there's not that much there. I mean, it delineates just the notes. It doesn't tell you how to play them, how to perform them. And I think for a period of time, there's a great temptation to say, okay, then we only go to what's there.
Right?
So we do the notes. We only do the notes. We don't play around with them. We do it as purely as we can. But the reality is that back in those days, that's not probably how the musicians performed it. They did all kinds of stuff, rhythmical, combining things, instrumental and vocal combined together, and so on. There's lots of dynamics, and there's lots of old drawings and so on that depict how people were enjoying and making this music, and it's clear from that it was not this sort of academic exercise by any stretch of the imagination.
It's almost more like notes to future self, so that I can perform this later.
Yeah.
But I'm going to perform it the way that I feel I should perform it on that day. It's kind of the interpretation I see.
Exactly.
Just a note about also the tea that we're drinking today, and we're drinking actually a silver leaf, and I'm personally interested in music it's actually where I started, and then I actually started this tea company with my wife to support a music career, which is ridiculous and only something you do in your early 20s, because it basically consumed me alive, but that's okay. It's been really, really interesting, the cultural and traditional and historical components of tea, and that's really drawn me in as well. In the 70s, for example, there was a resurgence of trying to understand some of the more ancient tea-making practices. What you're drinking right now is actually an interesting example of somebody playing with a traditional technique. So you're drinking what's called it's a silver leaf. When I saw silver, I think like it must be a white tea in the world of teas. And but then the farmer who sold it to me called it a green tea, and it didn't make sense to me. I just thought they made a mistake. And then I was drinking with a fellow who's really steeped in knowledge from the Yunnan area of southern China, and he was drinking this, and he's like, "Oh, they told you it's a white tea. They're lying to you. It's a green tea." And so anyway, it gets confusing. The difference between a white tea and a green tea is control over a process called enzymatic oxidation, and you're gonna enzymatically oxidize by releasing an enzyme called PPO, polyphenol oxidase. And polyphenol oxidase is going to develop the tea leaves and change their color. So when you have an oolong or a black tea or a crimson tea or green tea, it's all of the same plant, right? And it's just a control over that enzymatic oxidation, how much you do passive and active oxidation of those processes. And this is a really beautiful young leaf that has a lot of hairs on the back. And I would assume they would do something where they do a very hands-off approach where they let it sit and oxidize and do what's called a hard wither using the ambient environment to stop the enzyme. And that's how you make a white tea. But what they've done instead is they've done what's called the kill green process, which is the deactivation of the enzyme, really early on in the process before they did the hard wither. And that's what created this silver leaf. And it's really old plants, like over 100 years old. And those old plants have really deep rootstock, and the rootstock goes deep into the earth, and it pulls out really interesting complex sugars, so that when you develop that into a tea, you get really interesting flavors. And this will also age as well. This is a 2021. I don't normally serve my tea when it's more than 8 to 15 months old, because it starts to oxidize. But some teas, especially teas that are made with seeded cultivars or land-raised cultivars, are fantastic. Even better 2 or 3 years later. So this is a really interesting, taking it's playing with some sort of old techniques and creating something a little bit different using some really beautiful products. So anyway, this is this is from Guangdong, a farmer named Mr. Luo in China. And when you drink it, you can smell just a beautiful bouquet in the nose. You can take a little sip. And it's got I find some really pleasant bitters that go beautifully with the creme caramel that's going to be coming out soon. But again, I just love following the history and technique and how that, when I'm tasting too, I think of, like, I love when I'm mixing music to have a balance of high frequencies and low frequencies, and when I'm making teas to understand how that acidity can go well with the bitters, that can go well with tannins and sweetness, and to have that all create a really interesting flavor structure. I believe there's a lot of parallels. There's a sound structure that's created by the musician that's really fascinating to me. So really looking forward to this. But I'm glad you like it. Yeah. Cheers to everybody. Does anybody have any questions for Bill and Gwen? We're good to go. Do you have any final thoughts that you wanted to say to everybody?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Just
Okay.
Enjoy the music.
Yeah, all right. Okay. Then we'll get to it. What time is it? 5 to 1. Okay. All right. All right. I'll get these microphones and table out of the way.
Probably stay still.
Stay still until the microphone's
taken away.
Yeah. Where are we keeping the washroom here? Up there. Okay. So just so everybody knows, if you need to use the washroom, there's the keys are up at the sign-in table, where everybody would have signed in, and then also. Thank you. Okay. The washroom key, just for people upstairs as well, is just where you sign in. Normally there's a compost option for dishes, but you know what's great about today? This is the first time we've been able to do these sessions without having to use to-go plates and utensils, etc. So really excited about that. We're sort of entering an interesting new phase of society, but lovely to be outside, all things considered. Really appreciate you all being here. Okay, I think you should just turn off the service. Yeah. What you would do is you just turn it down. But I don't know where. Yeah, I can move the table.
Sorry, I should have grabbed the boxes. Maybe grab All right. I think we're about We've rehearsed it the other way around, but it's going to be all right.
Sorry to see things whenever there's a good moment.
It's really hard to look at, but I've never
So that's our oldest piece on the program. That is Spiritus Sanctus Vinicans Vita by Hildegard von Bingen.
Our next piece is going to feature the hurdy-gurdy. It's an instrument not everybody is familiar with. It's pretty complex and a little bit odd, difficult to sometimes understand exactly how it works. So it's basically along the same principle as a violin. So this wheel is rosin, like the bow of a violin, and then these strings sit on top of it and vibrate. And most of them are drone strings. The ones on either side here are. These three down the middle are melody strings, and they run through this key box. So inside this key box, the keys have little metal tangents that come up, and when you press the key upwards, it hits the string. So basically, the same way that on violin, when you touch the string, it raises the pitch. Sometimes people compare these to barrel organs, which I had my boss at work just yesterday made this comparison, and of course, you can't get mad at your boss because then he fires you. I wish I could have. I was very offended. So it's not a barrel organ. Nothing is pre-programmed. It's a musical instrument, and everything that comes out of it is because of me. So,
For better or for worse.
for better or for worse. If I make a mistake, at least it'll make the instrument look good. Oh, I guess I can stand. I can stand for this.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Yeah. hundred years.
A few hundred years.
So that last piece was medieval. It's from the Livre Vermeil. It is, right?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
it is. I knew that. It's from the Livre Vermeil, which was a book of songs sung by pilgrims on the Camino de Santiago. And now we're going to the Renaissance.
Now we're going to the Renaissance.
So obviously I'm playing a guitar. This is not really authentic. Guitars per se did not exist, but I don't know how to play the lute. So guitar is a substitute for that. Fortune, my foe, why dost thou frown on me? And will thy favours never greater be? Wilt thou, I say, forever breathe my pain? And wilt thou ne'er restore my joys again? Fortune hath wrought me grief and great annoy. Fortune hath falsely stole my love away. My love and joy, whose sight did make me glad. Such great misfortune never young maid had. Sorry about that. In vain I sigh, in vain I wail and weep. In vain my eyes refrain from quiet sleep. In vain I shed my tears both night and day. In vain my love, my sorrows to bewray. So shall I place my love in fortune's hands, my dearest love in most inconstant lands, and only serve the sorrows due to me. So hereafter shall my mistress be.
The dangers of playing outside. It creates more moisture, which fogs up the instrument, and also occasionally there's a sideways wind comes along, and it actually goes right across the blowhole, and so the air that I'm putting in gets blown out of the way, and the sound disappears completely. So that's one of the little challenges of a recorder outside.
What on earth are we doing now?
I'm just making excuses for tonight.
I should just stand right behind you.
Would you like to do we'll introduce some tea.
Ah, okay. Let me do Steve. Okay.
We're going to introduce another type of tea here.
Okay.
lamentable 14th century invention, the closed papers.
I'm just going to prepare the next tea, or serve the next tea here. This is a wonderful, wonderful tea called, it's a land race from the Darjeeling region of India. Many people, when they think Darjeeling, they always think black tea, or they don't even know that Darjeeling is a region, but it's an incredible region. And what they often sell their really nice teas as is SFTGFOPs, which means super flowery, golden, SFT, super flowery, golden tippy orange pea. I gotta see it written out. I don't know what's wrong with my brain today. But anyways, what I really like to do is not buy those teas because they're just putting a big batch of teas through what's kind of like a screen, and then you get like the really beautiful teas on the top and then the less beautiful teas on the bottom. This is instead a hand-rolled batch, 12 kilos, and it's basically been unsorted. So you get a little bit of everything. Complexity is a beautiful thing. And this has been lightly oxidized. It's a first flush Darjeeling 2023, and it is something we're really excited about. It has that muscatel terroir that the region is famous for. So hope you like it.
Shall we continue while you're pouring? Or?
Do you want to be sitting down or standing up?
That's first, of course.
Thank you.
Try this first.
Okay. Thank you. Isn't that a beautiful color?
Oh yeah, that's really nice. I like that. So I'm in tune here.
Let's do just a quick tuning check here.
I can tune you.
Tune through it.
Got it.
So the next piece we're going to do is a couple of very traditional songs, sort of peasant songs, if you like. One is the Dance of the Bears, or Bärentanz in German, and the other is, so we're back to nature here, the other is J'ai vu le loup, I've seen the wolf, which is French, right?
Yes.
Take it away. instruments. These little set of bagpipes that I'm playing are German bagpipes. They're called Hummelchen, which translates kind of to little bumblebee, buzzy pipes. So they make a little buzzy sound, as you can hear, not so very much different from what we think of in terms of the grand Scottish great pipes that can take your eardrums off. And they're very nice to play with other instruments, of course, because they blend very well with other instruments. And you want to talk about the dog?
Oh yeah, so the rhythmic part of the hurdy-gurdy, or the rhythmic thing that I'm doing with the hurdy-gurdy, it's because of these little tiny pieces of wood. They're actually completely loose, not attached to the instrument. They're simply held on by the pressure of the string that sits on top of them. So when the rate of the vibration of that string changes, they buzz against the platform they're on. Sometimes they're just against the body of the instrument, it doesn't really matter. And they create this little buzzing sound, which you can learn to control and use as a percussion instrument. So I'm just going to give myself a pitch here for the next song. So this is a traditional folk song. It's called McCrimmon's Lament. And it's a lament for Donald Ben McCrimmon, who was the piper of the MacLeod family. And he died during the Jacobite rebellion. He was actually on the pro-English side, the anti-Jacobite side, but the Jacobite pipers admired him as a musician so much that when he was captured by their side, they went on strike to protest. And this is a tune that he wrote for the bagpipes, and later on, his family ended up setting some Gaelic words to it about the fact that he had died. And these have been translated into English different times. This is just a version that has been in the oral tradition. So I'm not going to attribute the words really, but yeah, so it's a... Okay. Where are you taking it? Yeah, from the window from. The master to Salem, the banshee canoes are not of Wayland, but my boy we sorrow streaming for him that shall never return. My Cremon, no more, no more, no more forever. In war or peace shall return my Cremon. No more, no more, no more forever. Shall love or gold bring back my Cremon. The beasts on the brae are planned to folly morning. The brook in the hollow has mournfully moaning, but my boy with sorrow streaming for him that shall never return. My Cremon, no more, no more, no more forever. In the war or peace shall return my Cremon. is another set of medieval songs. So these are from the collection, the Cantigas de Santa Maria. These were allegedly written by Alfonso X El Sabio of Portugal. Who knows if he really wrote them all? There are over 100 of them. So if he sat around writing beautiful music all day, he might not have been a great king. But these cantigas, yeah, they're just really good. I don't know.
They are all stories of miracles wrought by the Virgin Mary. All these different stories, and there's, like for instance, there's over 100 of them, and it's kind of interesting because apparently the Virgin Mary was kind of no task too small. Took that approach to miracles, because everything from curing people and bringing them back to life to curing a lame donkey or any little miracle, Mary was there to help out, apparently. So according to these songs.
Let's tune to each other.
is a medieval viol. This is a tenor viol. They come in different sizes. It's really the ancestor to the violin. This is probably fairly obvious, but you can see it's a much different shape. It's flat-bodied. Originally, this is slightly unauthentic because originally these instruments would have been built carved out of a single piece of wood rather than being put together with pieces like this one is. So a little bit inauthentic, but it sounds very similar. And difference is that there are 5 strings instead of 4, like on a modern violin. And also the bridge is relatively flat, so that you spend a lot of time using the other strings as drone strings, doing double stopping. Rather than picking out a single string, you're almost always getting more than one string at a time, which is very much in line with the use of drones in the early music, which you will hear more of as the program goes by.
So we're doing another courtly air from the Renaissance. This was an entire genre across multiple different countries in Europe, and they're all about how sad it makes you when you're in love, how miserable it is. That's really all that there is to it. We have to
Arrange our sheet music here a little bit.
have to sort it out because we've got 3 pieces of paper on one stand. Hopefully we can do this. There we go. That looks fine.
Is that going to be good? Is that good enough?
I think that'll be fine. I think that'll be just fine for me. And we did want to do this with Dad's great bass recorder, which is about this long, but we had some technical issues with it last night and decided that it was not going to sound very good. So, ready? What then is love but morning? What desire but a self-burning?
We'll try it again.
Let's put that one down.
We need to have a different arrangement here. Okay.
Maybe
Don't have enough close space.
Maybe you should put one, like, sort of clip it to there.
How's that?
Whoa,
That'll
okay.
work.
I think we
Okay,
got it.
I think we got it.
Start over.
Try again.
Sorry about that.
I'm going to face away from you a bit because I keep getting that breeze
Sure,
coming across.
sure, by all means. What then is love but morning? What desire but a self-burning? Till she that hates doth love return. Thus will I mourn, thus will I sing. Come away, my darling. Beauty is but a blooming, youth in his glory entombing. Time hath a while which none can stay. Then come away, while thus I sing. Come away, my darling. Summer in winter fadeth, gloomy night heavily light shadeth. Like to the moon a Venus flows, such a house then will I sing. Come away, my darling. Such a house then will I sing. Come away, my darling.
Keep getting that cross breeze. But you know, there's a secret to that. The next one I will do. turn it around like that.
Oh,
And you play it backwards, and it doesn't, the wind doesn't get in there.
yes,
You
indeed.
end up in a similar quandary. I don't know if that would help, but.
Oh, thanks. Well, that was the only piece that we needed to do with that, so thank you.
So we don't have that much stuff left actually. So, how much time, what time is it?
So did you want to do
Another team? You ready for it? Okay. We got
Go down here.
Oh, were you? Okay. So we'll do a couple more pieces then? Sure. Okay. All right.
Okay, so this is a traditional folk song. It's about murder and misery and horror. This is pretty typical, pretty B flat standard. Should be able to understand what's going on. There was a lady in the north, and I never could find tomorrow. She was courted by 9 gentlemen and a plowboy lad from Yarrow. These 9 sat drinking at the wine, sat drinking wine in Yarrow, and it's there they vowed among themselves for to fight for her own Yarrow. She's washed his face, she's combed his hair, as often she's got a furrow. She has made him like a night so bright, for to fight for her own Yarrow. When he went up yon high, high hill, and down by the hounds of Yarrow, it's there he saw 9 armed men come to fight with him on Yarrow. It's there he slew, and there he flew, and there he wounded sorely, till her brother John came in from behind, and had stabbed his heart most foully. Oh, Father dear, I dreamed a dream, a dream of dew and sorrow. Oh, I dreamed I pulled the heather bell on the dowie downs, oh Yarrow. My daughter dear, I'd read your dream, and I fear that it will bring sorrow. For your own true love lies pale and wan on the dowie downs, oh Yarrow. When she went up yon high, high hill, and down by the haunts of Yarrow, it's there she saw her own true love, lying pale and dead on Yarrow. Her hair it was 3/4 long, and the colour it was yellow. She has wrapped it round his middle so small, and she's carried him down from Yarrow. Let's do bonbon. This is just a quick set of 2, well, let's do 3 and 3.
this is a long set now of two Renaissance sort of dance tunes. Well, one of them's kind of a bit slow for a dance tune, but
They're Bon Bon Si l'Amour, Vosgien, and the other is the Brawl des Cosses. They're both French dance tunes.
and the Brawl des Cosses actually is kind of interesting because it comes from a period in France when there was sort of a, I don't know, Scotland fetish among the rich. They thought that Scotland was really cool, and so they tried to imitate Scottish music. I don't know that they really succeeded with this song. They did. There are two Brawl des Cosses out there. One of them does sound Scottish. This one not so much, but they're interesting sort of sociologically for that reason. Shall we tune?
Yes, I think so.
My girl's getting so hot. Is that good? Okay, melody's right. All right. I'll start.
Thank you so much. Another big hand for Joan. We're just gonna take a short intermission. We're gonna allow Gwen and Bill to have some creme caramel too, I think is the plan. So if you'll just bear with us a little bit. Should be about, what do you guys think, 10, 15, 10, 15 minutes, okay? And then if you need to walk around, stretch your legs and all that, then we'll be back at it in just a little bit here. Thank you so much.
Happy to answer any questions that you have also about the instruments and the music, if you like.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So, what's the period that early music covers?
Well, usually when we think of early music, we think of everything up to the end of the Baroque period.
To the end of Baroque?
Yes, so that's kind of to about 1800 or so.
Oh, I didn't know Baroque was included.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, that's really interesting actually, because back in the 50s and 60s and into the 70s, there was a big revival, a big rediscovery of early music in Europe or the States. And at the time, Baroque music, like Handel, Bach, and Calderon, they were all standard stuff, right? Everybody was good at that. Of course, the Bluetooth and so on. So that word Baroque didn't seem that exotic. But the earlier stuff was, so the medieval Renaissance, and that was the stuff that was
I'm going to put it in a spot, I think, so let's do that.
medieval Renaissance. And that created this whole sort of 30 music movement. And when I was in university, for me, early music was medieval Renaissance. Early music was not Baroque. Yeah. And so, but what happened was that kind of over time, a couple of things happened. First of all, of course, there's a lot of music.
Think of the team.
Many of them.
I really like that. I mean, two very different teams, but
So,
increasingly, I don't know if have you ever had like a flare for basically take the raw.
and this kind of happened unbeknownst to some of us because I hear this kind of really intriguing myself. And when I got back into it in the 90s, what I thought was really music.
It was wonderful to have an ice cream that wasn't just flat.
That's my favorite. That as it became more than
It's a long.
we had this experience of research.
We're also trying to dial it into the analytic drinks.
There's a heck of a lot more written and published and survived of growth music. Because let's face it, it was really only sort of part of the Renaissance period, sort of in the early part of the 16th century, that music publishing was invented. Prior to that, it was all handwritten, right? And so,
Cheers. Very nice.
Anything with sheet music. And I really had to.
and so, what happened, I think, is that a lot more people came to sort of performance. And because so much more information in the world, that's something that led to a lot more material for people to build their academic careers on and whatever, right?
Backstory is interesting.
Yeah. And so, so bit by bit, Baroque became kind of a central part of the early music. And the kind of faded out again. And that's continued. And maybe a bit more rediscovery now. But it still tends to be, I remember when I was in the 90s, sort of there's a music summer program, right? And everything was broke. Couldn't find anything. And so it's changed a little bit now, I think, but it's still somewhat fresh. Even inside that I choose the repertoire for it, a couple of Renaissance pieces. People here, Banquo here, Boston. Oh, yeah. Of course, the approach to the current very different than what it was in the 70s. Because in the 70s, people were playing modern violins, steel strings, modern bows, and not really paying a lot of attention to historic practices. Now, of course, in all these decades of research and all these treatises on earth, and instrument makers now are making more authentic reproductions. Violinists are into you've got the modern violin, because they're all playing simple as well. That's their day gig, right? Yeah, they got to make some money somehow. And they have a second violin that's strung with flexes, and you've got a bow. So this whole historic performance.
Yes. Wow, a very good professional musician. Like I heard a pitch probably
You're there, and if you're but so for me, the earlier stuff is always more exotic.
Yes.
It's less known about it, so we were saying earlier in our interview, you do more.
Yeah, I do.
Whereas usually the broken, then into the transport,
Yes, you could also hide
and you do what the composer said. You don't wear it because, now that's not
and being like, I want to do that. So, yeah, you always put all the solos, but I really think it's amazing. But I just finished an opera program, and it's
composers.
yeah, I was 2 years left of my undergrad, and then I went
Performance coming along, putting all kinds of, frills and stuff in it. I never did it that way. So, not only that, they did a bad job of it. I think it was bad. So the consortium
It
started
looks a lot like what you were talking about earlier. The cantinas studied in history class, like, it's just you're learning music history, theory, musicianship.
So, and that's evolved.
Like,
And, I was a
practical
different
theory,
player.
doing solfege stuff, and I have lessons, and ensemble.
And joy of
Hello, everybody. Welcome back from our intermission here. I'm going to be moving on to the next tea in the series of the flight, I should call it. You had a silver leaf, and then that was followed by a Junpana Estate Darjeeling. It was a first flush 2023. Next, we're going to be doing a Wuyi Mountain Oolong. So it's called Rougui, and Rougui is I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Da Hong Pao or Big Red Robe. It's a really famous charcoal roasted oolong. What's interesting, what I've done here in the series is normally you would serve an oolong before you would serve the crimson tea, or what we call black tea in North America. But I chose to serve you the Darjeeling first because it was so lightly oxidized. It shouldn't technically be called a black tea in the first place. It's so aromatic, it's so oolong-y, because more and more in Darjeeling they've been backing off on how far they take the enzymatic oxidation process before they do the kill green, the deactivation of the enzyme. And so to me, it tastes like a much lighter oolong than what I'm about to serve you, even though people call it a black tea. This next one, the Rougui, has been it's been charcoal roasted. And this particular farmer is a young guy named Mr. Chen. He took over, Eric Chen took over from his family. He's just hit 30. And he's very experimental with his oxidations and his techniques. Really love this one. If you've ever had a good hojicha in your life, and then you combine that with like the fantastic complexity of a beautiful oolong, it's kind of what you're gonna find with this particular. So I'm gonna go and serve this to you, and I'm gonna hand things off to Gwen and Bill to continue the set. Thank you very much, and a big hand for them.
So this is a sort of troubadour song. It's medieval, and it's about being sad because your crush doesn't like you. Because the theme of all these troubadour songs is actually sort of a social convention at the time that you were supposed to write about someone else's wife and how much you loved her and how sexy she was and how she was being so horrible to you because she wouldn't sleep with you because she wasn't going to cheat on her husband. And the husband would feel flattered by this. Nowadays, I think you'd likely get your lights punched out. But in the medieval period, sometimes people would genuinely get offended if you didn't do that. So in the French courts, which were a very strange social microcosm, and of course ended with everyone getting their heads cut off. So this is called Edam. Oh, you want to? Or, yeah, okay.
This little beast is called a crumbar.
So neither of these instruments actually existed in the Middle Ages. They're both standing in. We think that they sound cool. They're both standing in for the things that they might have had. Let's not get into it though. Okay, I'm gonna start it.
tus manos también que pasa, signoria, pour vie chanter, dont tournemos en amande, et pour la quelle joyante, vites mains maestria, dont tournemos en amande, et pour la quelle joyante, vites mains maestria.
Just a word about the instruments that you dismissed so
Well, I
abruptly.
just didn't want to get into it. You know? I felt like I'd been waffling.
So this is a crumhorn. It really is more of a Renaissance instrument than a medieval instrument. It's quite true. Although we don't really know when they started to be built, because all we know about these instruments are either A, some have survived, or B, somebody wrote something about them at some time. Now, back in the medieval time, people weren't really writing about the instruments that much, so we don't really have a good idea of what of the sum total of instruments that were being played. We know the ones that were written about, but we don't know the ones that weren't. And often it's just part of the we guess from the iconography, from the pictures, and the manuscripts and so on, of what instruments they were playing. But we do know that this existed in the Renaissance, so that's the period that we slotted into.
Yes.
This is an instrument that is called a cittern. The original cittern was a much smaller instrument and tuned slightly differently, but it was a Renaissance instrument, and it was used. It was sort of the novice's lute. It was sort of the poor man's lute. In the citterns, there would be a cittern hanging on the wall in the barber shop. So while you're waiting to get your hair cut, you pick it up and you pick away at it. This instrument is really more of a 20th century invention. It's also called a cittern, but it's a bit bigger and it's tuned
Yeah.
slightly different.
So this is actually descended from the Irish bouzouki, which is an adaptation that Irish instrument builders made to Greek bouzouki that were being brought over from Greece in the 1960s. And then some of these Irish builders started adding another course of strings onto the top. Well, when you add a course of strings, it's a new instrument. What do you call it? Well, they basically picked the word cittern out of a hat because nobody else was using it. And by sheer coincidence, the bouzouki and the ancient cittern, the Renaissance cittern, are pretty much the same shape, despite there being this huge evolutionary gap. So it looks a lot like a medieval cittern. It's just bigger
Renaissance.
and deeper. Well, yeah, medieval Renaissance, whatever. Oh, I'm just gonna get my stand for this guy, so that it can just look over here, where it's nice and shady.
All right.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna do another little folk song here. It's called Sir Patrick Spence, and it's a folk song with very old origins. It goes back to, I think, the 12th century is the time when the events described took place.
And it's based on actual historical events.
Yeah. The king sat and unfound for the finest sailor in Fife and all the land. The king has scrived a long letter and signed it with in hand, sent it to young Patrick Spence, was walking on wee sands. To Norawa, the fame, the king's doctor, oh Norawa, 'tis ye mun bring her hame. And when he looked at the letter on, a muckle laugh gaed he, but once he'd done the reading of it, the tears blinded his ee. Oh, who's it done this fail deed, and tell the king o' me? Although it were mine father, an ill death may he die. There had nae been in Norawa a week but barely 3, when a' the lairds o' Norawa did up and spak sae free. These woodland Scots wasted Queen's good, and swallowed King's fee. Weary through the tongue that spak such a muckle. Tucked and my sailors all, and sleepy well fond, for come it wind or come it rain, our great ship sails the morn. Then out it spak the weatherman, I fear we'll all be drowned, for I saw the new moon late yestreen, with the old moon in her arms. There had na been a boon an hour but and a half, when the lift grew lake and the wind blew haich, and the ship it was a wrack. Oh, where can I find a bonny lad to take my steer in hand? For I must climb to the high top mast to see if I can spy land. Oh, lathe, what are great Scots lords, to what their cork-heeled shoon. But before all the ply was done, they wat their hats aboon. And lang will the ladies sit with their fans until their hands, before they see young Patrick Spence come sailing into land. Havard, te Aberdeen, o'er the seas say wild and deep. It's there it lies young Patrick Spence, with all the Scots lads at his feet. So I don't know if you got the whole tune of that. Sir Patrick Spence allegedly was a real person who was hired to bring this princess back from Norway to Scotland. And of course, the ship was wrecked and they all drowned. What can you do? Yeah, were they in a submarine? Well,
Let's do it.
so this is another couple of Cantigas de Santa Maria. The previous ones were Santa Maria Streladoria, and these are Taque Deus Mamo, and these are Como Poden and Como Somos Per, and I don't know what they're about, but it's about the Virgin Mary. So that's all we need.
Miracles. So these pipes are German pipes again. They're shepherd's pipes, as they're known. So they're a bit, as you can see, a bit bigger than the last set. They have a wonderfully, impossibly long drone, bass drone chanter, which I love.
which has been responsible for the death of several light fixtures.
Happily, there's nothing. Yeah. I have to get used to where the holes are. Every instrument is different, you know, where the...
You should just be a singer.
Start again. Very tricky with these if you don't get the whole quite right.
Oh, let's do it first. Okay. Okay. All right. Not a lot to say about this one. It's Scottish. We have done this. Dad and I have done this so many times.
Over the years.
We have been doing this one since 2012, so over a decade. I also know this on harp. I didn't bring any of my harps, but I have two. We didn't end up using them. And we've done this with Banquo, and we've done this with really serious musicians. And yeah. Okay. Ready? Joy to the past. Joy to the person of my love, although she died. heart unto me. I love her, or I will have none. A thousand good fortunes fall to her share, although she hath rejected me, and filled my sad heart full of despair. Yet ever shall I constant be. For she is the dame that my tongue will ever name, the branch of modesty. Choice in heart and mind, oh, she hath so kind, than would she pity me. Sweet and at last, be kind as thou art chaste, and let me in thy bosom dwell. So shall we gain the pleasure of love's pain. Till then, my dearest dear, farewell.
Sure, go ahead.
Another one big hand for Gwen. A little last tea interruption of the afternoon. We're going to end on an herbal tea. So, a tisane. Now, if tea is not made from Camellia sinensis, then it's technically not tea. It's we would call it a tisane or an herbal tea. But the couple that made this, they grow the holy basil in Quebec. They carefully harvested Charles is a dear friend of ours who's actually performed at JagaSilk. He's an accordionist, travels the world and learns from gypsies, and a really just amazing person. And him and his partner have been growing herbs with the dedication that you see in small lot farmers, the tea farmers that we would often work with. And Charles is a huge Camellia sinensis fan, so he's always thought, like, what if I was just very meticulous and very careful in how I grow my herbs? So this is just an example of their holy basil. Very, very fruity, kind of, you get this licorice nose that I really want you to check out. And anyways, this is going to be the final tea of the afternoon. And actually, why don't I? You just had that one, but
That was
start
really
with
good,
it.
that last one.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
It's like a roasted. It's a roasted udon, so you get that nice, almost buttery Maillard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to change your recording. Yeah, I just changed your backwards. So I need to change your recording. Let's check how this cotton is doing. Looks okay.
Is that the ancestor of the Swedish key fiddle?
I don't know if there's any connection between the hurdy-gurdy and the nickel harpa. I would think it likely,
It looks like
but
somebody could have traveled.
yeah, it's probably likely that they have a connection, but I don't really know for sure about that.
The hurdy-gurdy is the more ancient one because it goes back to medieval times. But you're right. If you take away the wheel and put a bow there, and it becomes a nickel harpa, basically.
Yeah, sort of.
Same mechanism for.
Yeah. Same idea. Pour lots of tea down the recorder. All right. How's this? That sound good? Okay. All right. This is a very interesting song. It's medieval English, and it's in medieval English. It's a prayer by someone who's in prison and not liking it, to prayer to Jesus and to Virgin Mary. Just get me out of here. And it ends by saying, Jesus is so great. He does all these great things. I just don't want to be in prison anymore, you know? It's the sort of thing that people said. I'm going to have some tea. That's fun. Okay. I'm all set. Help God for this sweet now, King of heaven, Richard. Jesu Christ, soth God, soth man, lover der upon me, of prison that ich in Rom, bring me out and mak me frei, each and min feren samme, God watch me genocht, for of ram is long, bin in his prison I brought. Bonnie. Yes. Okay. D and G.
Where should I get those?
Oh, that sounds awful. Okay, so this is another folk song about death and horror and misery. It's about a girl whose boyfriend is a lord, and he got her pregnant, but he didn't marry her. And she waits around for him to show up and marry her, and the baby is born, and he's still not here, so she decides she's going to go to him, and she dies. It's terrible. Oh, who will comb my yellow hair with my new-bought silver comb? And who will father my young son till Lord Gregory comes home? But I will get a bonny boat, and I will sail the sea, and I will go to Lord Gregory, since he will not come home to me. And row, row, you mariners, row swiftly to the land, for yonder I see my love's castle by the South Sea strand. And open the door, Lord Gregory, open and let me in, for the wind blows through my yellow hair, and I'm shivering to the chin. Away, away, you wild woman, away and let me be. You're either a witch or a wild warlock or a mermaid of the sea. Oh, I'm neither a witch nor a wild warlock, nor a mermaid of the sea, but I'm fair Annie of Royal, oh, open the door to me. Away, away, you wild woman, for here you will not come in. Go drown you in the salt, salt sea, or hang on the gallows pin. Oh, don't you mind Lord Gregory, when in my father's hall, it was there you had your will of me, and that was the worst of all. Don't you mind Lord Gregory, when we drank at the wine, we changed the rings on our fingers, and I can show thee thine. Oh, mother dear, I dreamed a dream, the thought of it makes me weep. I dreamed fair Annie of Rough Royal was lying dead at my feet. And is it Annie of Rough Royal that makes you make this din? She stood last night at our hall door, but I would not let her in. Well, the wind grew high and the waves grew rough, for Annie was tossed on the sea. Her yellow hair had caught in the wind, and her son was seen no more. That's a terrible, terrible made-up verse that I just did. I have no idea why I sang that. I kept thinking as I went through, I'm like, I'm going to remember what it is, I'm going to remember, and I never did at any point. It's something like, Lord Gregory, then he went down. No, you know what? Away, away, you ill woman, some ill death may you die, for you wouldn't let fair Annie in when she came so far from me. I'm so sorry. Man, I really thought I knew that one. Oh well. Now you have to mess this one up really badly to make me look
I've already messed some stuff up, so we're even already. So, you've seen a couple of sets of German bagpipes. These are Swedish bagpipes. I play a tune called Lugaren, which is a traditional Swedish tune. Two tunes.
Yeah, one of them is Swedish and one of them is allegedly English, but we don't know what it's called.
We're not sure.
We're not sure.
battened down here.
Yeah, the wind is coming up.
Suffer fair Annie's fate. So these are different because they have only one drone. It's a little drone, and it's actually the same note as the as the chanter is when all the fingers are down on the chanter. And of course, as you see, the drone kind of goes across your chest rather than up your back. It's just a different approach to design. Just check the tuning. Louder than the other small pipes that I'm playing. This is very sad, but
It's got to be done. How much time do we have? Do we need to?
we've got 10 minutes.
We got 10 minutes. Okay, so I should probably sing out a song.
If you want to, sure.
So we didn't practice this one, but I think I know it pretty darn well. It's a traditional folk song, and it's kind of belongs to the genre of songs that are intended to warn young women about man. There are a lot of these songs. It's called The Cuckoo. The cuckoo is a pretty bird. She sings as she flies. She brings us good tidings. She tells us no lies. She sucks on the little bird's eggs to keep her voice clear. And when she sings cuckoo, the summer it is near. As I was walking along by a bush, I heard two birds whistling, the blackbird and the thrush. I asked them the reason so merry they be, and the answer they gave, we are single and we are free. A-walking was I to meet my true lover. He'll come by and by. To meet him in the meadow is all my delight. A-walking and talking from morning till night. Meeting is a pleasure and parting is a grief. And
constant lover is worse than a thief. A thief can but rob me and take all I have, but an inconstant lover sends me to my grave. The grave, it will rot me and bring me to dust. An inconstant lover no maiden can trust. They'll court you and kiss you and vow they'll be true, but the very next moment they bid you adieu. The cuckoo is a pretty bird. She sings as she flies. She brings us good tidings. She tells us no lies. And when her time comes, her voice we don't hear. And we don't know where she has gone until another year. Okay, yeah. That's just suggested. Which version should I do?
Do both.
Okay. So this is a song.
Should do two more songs and then we'll do our last song after that together.
I think I'll do the Scottish one first. So this is a song that there are lots and lots of versions of. You might even know this one. It's pretty famous. So I learned two really separate versions. The words are not really the same, and the tunes are very different. So I'm going to do the Scottish version that I learned from Jeannie Robertson, her CD Song of the Seals. And then I'm going to do the English version, which I actually learned from the band Pentangle. If you don't know Pentangle, they are so cool. It's like a jazz folk band. They have like a jazz bassist who's really good, like a jazz drummer and guitar. It's a great band. They're active in the 60s and 70s. So I guess they might still be doing shows with some of the people. Anyway, so this is College Boy. Oh, Father, my Father, what is it you've done? You've wed me to a college boy, a boy that's far too young. His age, it is but 16 years, and I am 21. He's my bonny, bonny boy, and he's growing. When we went through the college, we saw the boys playing ball. I spied my love among them, the fairest of them all. I spied my love among them, the fairest of them all. He's my bonny, bonny boy, and he's growing. At the age of 16 years, he was a married man, and at the age of 19 years, the father of a son. And at the age of 21, he did become a man, but the green grass on his grave was a-growing. I will buy my love some flannel, I'll make for him a shroud. With every stitch I put in it, the tears they will come down. With every stitch I put in it, the tears they will come down. For the green grass on his grave is a-growing. So this is the English version. There's one chord in here which is weird. That's how you know it's Pentangle. Trees, they grow high. Oh, shit. Sorry. What the heck is it? Do I say it starting on the third or what? Trees, they grow high. That's it. Yeah. Trees, they grow high, the leaves, they do grow green. Many is the time my true love I've seen. Many is the time that I've watched him all alone. for 1 year yet. Tie a blue ribbon all around his head to let the ladies know that he's married. At the age of 16 years, he was a married man. Age of 19 years, the father of a son. Age of 21, his grave the grass grew green. Oh, he's young and he's daily growing. I'll buy my love some flannel and I'll make for him a shroud. Every stitch I put in it, the tears come trickling down. Once I had a true love, but now I'm married a one. I'll watch over his son while he's growing.
I just find it interesting to contrast the two different songs, basically the same song. But
Yeah,
treated
if the
totally
words sounded really similar, I have actually altered the ages in the English one to be closer to the Scottish one because the age gap was really disturbing to me in the English one, and I just was not going to sing about that. So I have altered it a little bit, just for my own comfort, which is the prerogative of the folk singer. So the last song, this is also a piece of traditional folk music, and this one was, it's a very, very old song. It dates back to about 1513 or something, the Battle of Flodden Field, which was not a good time for the Scots army. They did not do well. And these lyrics mostly are from the 18th century. There was someone who wrote a poem kind of looking back at that in the context of the 18th century and the conflicts that were happening then with the English. And it's called The Flowers of the Forest.
You need to tune.
You need to tune. You need to tune for Jean. You need to tune to me this time. Stink.
Wow.
So I'm in G. This is in G, right?
Yeah. You're much sharper than I am.
Yeah, that might be the problem with my signal. Let me get my start. See if I'm sharp.
Temperature has changed a lot here from the sun to the cold, so it's probably.
Yeah, these are all sharp. So I will. On. Register.
Yeah. It's red, isn't it?
It's right. Can you play this on the recorder?
I can put it on recorded.
I think we're going to switch to recorder. The bagpipes give it a real Scottish sound, but the authentic Scottish out of tuneness is maybe just a little too much.
That sounds better.
That's a lot better. Okay.
Good. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
We don't
you.
have anything else.
So another big hand for Gwen and Bill. If you're interested in watching the performance after the fact, it is live streaming and will be archived actually on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
So you can go to youtube.com/JagaSilk and it's going to be there already. We have this as our first part in a 2-part series this year. Last year we did 6 sessions. This year we decided to just kind of chill a bit and do 2. So thank you. Our next performer actually will be joining us August 12th. It's going to be Lester Quitzaw. He's a Juno Award-winning roots and blues player. Absolutely fantastic. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We like to switch things up. My wife and I put together the most oddest of compilations you can imagine. We love jazz, we love blues, we love early music, we love Renaissance. So the ITAS is also a part of this. So the Tea Talk is sponsored by the International Tea Appreciation Society. August 28th is the Victoria Tea Festival Revival. So if you're in town and you want to come and check out, there's generally about 20 tea merchants lined up like a farmer's market in here from lots of different companies. And then down in the school, down the stairs, there is a tea symposium where they stream, and you can also find archived versions of that, hours of footage of tea specialists talking about various themes and their specialties. This year it looks like we'll probably have a teapot gallery, kind of like an art gallery set up with all these little beautiful I Ching teapots, etc. And you can go to victeafestrevival.org for that. It's in the booklet, that information. If you're curious, please let me know if you don't have a booklet and you would like to know where to find that info. If people want to go and check out what you guys are up to, you're often with the Banquo, I guess. That would be where we can, maybe if we want to buy some music, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we have a website, we've got some CDs.
We have 3 studio albums that are available to download, and they're on Spotify as well, and like iTunes and Bandcamp.
All that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, we've been listening to them and been having a great time. So anyway, thank you again for joining us today, and another.
I'll put in my plug. Do check out Early Music Society of the Islands, because we have now announced and have tickets available for our next season, and it's going to be an exciting season. So do check it out. Just www.earlymusicsocietyoftheislands.ca. So it's really simple.
And Banquo is spelled C-A-N-Q-O, right?
It's like the character from the Scottish play. Yeah.
This is on the move.